Hello, Mega Drone X pilots. Today I'm going to be joined with Joe Scully, our master conductor. I was actually going to do this video by myself, but I just realized that this is just too much information and you'd want to hear it from the person that actually is going to be running the race. So, Joe Scully, our race director, why don't you introduce yourself?
Perfect. Well, actually, I find these things are better with two people because when I talk to myself, I don't get as many laughs. But when I talk to other people, it's nice to get a giggle every now and then. I'm Joe Scully. I'm the race director with FPV Racing Events, and I'll be running or managing the racing component of the Mega Drone X in Louisville, Kentucky. And we're really excited to get into it. Our production team, as a FPV group, we're not in competition with anyone. We're not like these leagues and series that everyone's out there trying to be the rules, the nationals. You know what I mean? We're our own entity, and we'll work for anyone and everyone. And we're kind of like Batman. So we've done some pretty big events from XDC2 to F3 Expo. We're going to be doing Drone Wars this summer. And it's exciting. Each and every event that we go to, there are all these grand scale events, and we come in with our own strategy. And on record, we have the fastest transitions. No one has been able to come too close to how fast we can pound through the heats. And we've been put in some pretty challenging situations. And why we met at F3 Expo, and we were in a building that was completely unflyable, and eventually we came up with a solution and had great racing. And at XDC2 in Las Vegas, another crazy venue, and all kinds of issues there that we were able to solve from critical timing malfunctions. And so we're kind of like superheroes. You come in like Batman, we work for the brand, we work for whatever event or organization we're working for at that one, and we basically solve the problems, and we turn over the heats, and we focus on the racer experience. So with the Mega Drone X, we're super stoked that we have the second highest accumulated group of FPV racers to the U.S. Drone Nationals of 2015. There hasn't been any other place with 80 plus pilots all convening for an FPV race. And what's really going to be our feather in our cap when it's done is that we'll have worked with well over 200 racing entries between individual racing, the Thunder Drone, the HD Mega Challenge with Detroit Multi-Rotor Company. It'll be over 200 entries that we're going to pound through in 2 days. And we're still going to give everyone 4+ packs on the first day, three packs on the second day, and really deliver that racer experience. It's going to run like the military, and so we're really excited that we can bring our program, our proven strategy of race management to this event. And I think, with all of our homework and working with their team with Derby City Drone Racing, that this is going to be an outstanding event. I'm not going to pull what a lot of events have done recently that, are we the future? Are we are we more, is this going to be the best ever? We're not going to make those claims. Afterwards, I'm pretty sure we'll be doing a mic drop, but right now we're really excited as we are on our way to making history. And, if all of our I's are dotted and T's are crossed, this is going to be the most outstanding event ever. But, we're not claiming it yet. We still have to get through the Mega Drone X.
That's right. There's, having 80 pilots, when you actually look at the raw numbers, that is an incredible number of races that you have to do in 2 days. It is, after looking at it, it's crazy. So, Joe Scully, you're going to be really busy.
Well, yeah, we've got it like clockwork, which is really nice. So for us, where I find, even in my RC racing, I'm going to do a race here in a couple weeks' time, probably, I guess, 2 weeks before the Mega Drone X, where last year I did the same race. We had 288 entries, and this year we're expected to go over 300 entries in RC car racing. And that's a 4-day event, and basically the day goes from 8 a.m. to 1 a.m., and then we wash, rinse, and repeat. Literally, we have a shower, we come back and do it again. And, I find the more entries, the easier it is. And as I've done the pre-analysis, we're still working through making sure that we have everyone in the proper assigned classes and stuff. But looking at the numbers now, I did a dry run because I have nothing better to do. And I spent 90 minutes to 2 hours, and it was a whole new system. So I use a scoring system, and everyone knows the multi-GP app, what it does. And we've run events in collaboration. But this one, because time is going to be a factor, organization is a factor, and we have the whole new component of not only do we have all these racers in different heats, we have to break it down so we only have 40 racers down at the track to adhere to the fire code. So I had to take the field, divide it into 40, and then take those classes, divide those up into races, make sure the grids are full, start shuffling around, fill all the grids, because if you're running a heat with 4 in it, you're not being efficient. So I crunched the numbers. It was a dry run. And the great thing about it is, when people go into the week of this event, we're going to be able to tell every racer, you are in either Group A, Group B, here are your classes, and here are your channel assignments. And for 95% of the racers, whether they're in 4-inch, 5-inch, or 6-inch props classes, or all three, I've pretty much assigned them all the same frequency, at least for opening day Saturday. So just the advanced management is awesome. And then the quantity, it divides up our numbers. So if you're in all three classes in Group A or B, there's 4 races before your next one. So you can use the same lipo. In essence, you'll still have time to charge it up, even though it'll be 7 minutes or less cycle times. So you're not back to back. You have lots of time to prepare. You have lots of time in advance to prepare. Getting your VTX tuned in, and so I think by having more entries, you don't have those problems of back to back. The last big grand scale race we did, it was XDC2 in Las Vegas in January, and there we started with 77 entries. We also had 3 classes, but we did a different strategy there, as we had 1 class per day in essence. And what happened was, when we did our bumping in our groups, there was too much time between packs, and when we got into our mains, if you won your lower seed, you'd bump into the next one, and we had to wait on you. With this format, running all 3 classes at the same time, when you advance, you have 2 classes to get ready for your next bump. So quantity, it sounds like a headache. And I mean, for you and I, with registration, everything that we got to do to make sure everyone's happy and checked in and charging, that is going to be tough. But for the actual execution, and I think the overall efficiency, the quantity is going to help us, because there's going to be no excuse that someone even walks onto the property without their quad tuned into the right channel. And and they know we can advance. Race number 7, race number 14, and race number 19. That's where you are. We're not waiting. Let's roll. So I think it actually is a big advantage to us for the efficiency. And then it's really nice to say largest FPV race ever in the history of the industry based on individual race entries.
Awesome. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the actual racing rules. So we're going to go ahead and cover the individuals first, and then we'll go into the team race, because everybody is going to race the individuals. And then if you're not in the team race, you can just cut off this video, because you probably don't care. Or you might. I don't know. So individual racing, we have, as most of you know, we have 3 classes. We have the 4-inch class, 5-inch class, 6-inch class. So basically, we're just regulating by the size of prop that your quad can spin. We don't really care how many blades are on it. We just care about the prop size. The other rules are, it has to be a 4S battery. You can't go above that, and it has to have 4 motors, which most people adhere to pretty easily. Pretty standard stuff. We're going to have 8 on the line, or as many quads as we can, and 5 laps is the maximum number of laps that you need to turn. So, Scully, very quickly, just give us your rundown of how you like to run these races or these events.
So my biggest thing, and there's some other people in similar industries, one of my big clients who got me into this in the RC car industry, we have different opposing views. My view is that we want to get pilots out on the track as much as possible. And the reason being is I want the A main top 8 finale to be the best possible race that it can be.
Definitely.
So everyone has the best lines. They've got their quad tuned in, dialed in, and everything should be clicking by that point. And to do that, we do practice, we do multiple rounds of qualifying, and then we also do that ladder main system. Other people are under the impression of, you're a pro, obviously, everyone's a pro or everyone's an amateur in this. This industry is so new. But, the opposing view is you should know what you're doing. You should be able to just drop your quad and fly a course. And, point being, World Drone Prix, how many times did they get to fly? They got to fly put their quad up there for a minute, test it on the qualifying day, make sure this is the first time they've flown it outside of their hotel rooms. You have 2 minutes, then put a new lipo in, fly, and, $1 million in the line, mess it up, you're not going to advance. You know, and
It's
the way
rough.
that they ran their program, by the time it was all said and done, Luke Bannister, the World Drone Prix winner, probably only burned 17 lipos over the week. And
It's crazy.
my theory is to go the other way around. And World Drone Prix was very inspired by F1, and the same sort of thing. It's like you have a car, you have a track, you should be able to drive it. But with us, we try and afford as many rounds as possible and get people out there as many times and give them as many chances to qualify and put their best effort forward. So our first round is a practice round, and for fun, usually at an event, we'll track individual lap times, fast laps. And basically, because my role duplicates into a commentator capacity, it gives me something to talk about.
Yep.
Okay, this is now the fast lap. This is the fifth fastest lap. Now we're going to use those. It's not just for fun. In the Mega Drone X example, we're going to use fast laps to actually select our invitational pilots for the HD challenge with Detroit Multi-Rotor. But that first round is out there just to get you used to the track, get
Get you
everything done.
warmed up.
And with that, usually what we do is we'll give you full 3 minutes on the track, 2 or 3 minutes. Once we get that clock refined, it'll either be 2 or 3 minutes on the go tone. Everyone goes and flies. And so then everyone's dialed in. Then the next round, and we have 2 more rounds, they're qualifying rounds. And in that, and it depends on the track. Like, if the track is a really short track, we'd be looking at 5 laps. If it's a really long track, we're looking at 3 laps. And basically, we want to look at your best minute and a half. When you look at pilots like Brain Drain, they're burning 40 packs a day. Brain Drain, second at the World Drone Prix. He's a fast pilot. And, if you said go and fly for 5 minutes, he'd be like, what am I going to do past the 2 minute mark? I'm going to have a puffed lipo. So we kind of look at what can fast pilots do in a minute and a half. So let's say it's 5 laps around the course. So there are other pilots that don't puff their packs, and so the number, if it's 3 or 5, let's just say it's 5 in this instance, we look for your fastest 5 consecutive laps. Now, what that means is everyone's going to take off before our start-finish gate. They'll hit the start-finish gate, and that's basically the start of lap 1. And so once you do your 5 laps in, you're technically qualified. But your first lap includes your takeoff, and so you basically want to go 6 laps. Use that first one as a sighting lap, even though it's under the clock. And so now your fastest 5 consecutive laps should be laps 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And if you still have lots of lipo, you just keep going, and then we take your fastest 5 consecutive laps. And again, with our mantra of getting you out on the track as much as possible, giving you the best opportunity to qualify. In the second round, we do the exact same thing, and you're looking for your fastest 5 consecutive. Whether you do 8 laps, whether you do 5, it's your fastest 5, and then we take your better of the 2, your best 2 efforts, because things happen.
Right.
It's called Rocket Round in RC racing, and then that'll be the times that we'll qualify people on and seed them into the brackets for Sunday.
Awesome. Just one quick thing to note: we are shooting for 5 laps, but if we're noticing that the top pilots, if they're just puffing lipos and stuff like that, we will reduce it. So one of the things to know about in almost every FPV event that I've ever been in, we're going to run into problems. We're going to run into challenges on the spot, and we're going to have to problem solve them. So that's just the life of FPV events. So just realize that things
And that's
will
where, like,
change.
the practice round, like I always call it my practice dummy round. And so we'll go into some venues and, we'll have tested video. We always test, and repeat. And then we think it's the best possible situation. And we actually go around every one of our ground stations and put on the best possible antenna configuration for each station individually. It may be, I use True RC X2 Airs, which are, outstanding antenna. They have a higher gain, greater beam. So I like to put 4 of those on there. But sometimes we have some multipathing or some interference, or we're too close to the flight line. We'll swap them out with some traditional 8 dB immersion patches, or we'll put on like a Fat Shark Omni. And so we go around every station and make sure it's the best possible video. Then we'll try and fly as many pilots as possible. But then when we get into those first couple of heats of practice, it's the crash test dummy round. So we may get 8 in the air and just, they're just maybe a harmonic. We do some testing, and we're testing with duos right now down in the caves. When I come in with the super stations, it should improve it, but you never know. There is no thing. Like if you get a manual with anything FPV, whether it's a VTX, a receiver, or even a frame, or your ESC, just rip up that manual, because nothing in FPV goes the way it's supposed to. So in that first practice round, that's where we really see, is it going to be a 3 or a 5? We think it's going to be, looking at the measurements of the track, 5 is a nice number. At all of our winter indoor series events up here, we do the fast 5. But if it's longer, if there's a challenge, if we're able to run all 8 and there's lots of traffic, once we come out of that practice round, then we set the number.
Right.
And
that's right.
And then we go from there. Like you say, we learn as we fly, and then also, moving into that first round, if maybe we can't run 8 for, video reasons or traffic reasons, and then we make that modification. And the one thing that every racer has been on one of my flight lines knows, that I sound very aggressive. I ask questions as aggressive statements, but I'm very, very fair, and I always look at it, because all my life I've competed in rodeo and motorsports and taekwondo and even piano. I'm a competitive person, so I look at things to make sure that the right person wins and the right thing happens. So if we go out there, even in practice session, crash test dummy heat, we go up, let's say we do 3 heats, and all of a sudden we can't run 8. Then I'll rerun those first couple of heats to make sure that they have the same opportunity as everyone else, because that practice round does count towards qualifying for the Mega HD challenge. So, I'm almost too lenient in times, and at the same time, we want to make sure that the right person wins, that there's no no greater advantage to any racer over another, and and it's constantly maintained. And fortunately, with the scoring software that I have too, we could even get into our qualifying round, and let's say we had our lower seeds all in our first couple of brackets, and we're like, 5 is the number, and all of a sudden you have Zoomis, the DRL1 Miami Heat champion, and Brain Drain, the World Drone Pre-Reserve champion, and they go out there and they're puffing batteries, and they can only do 3 laps, and we're like, what? At the end of the day, 3 laps is a number. I can hit a button and recalculate it out, and we just move on. So that's the great thing about this is we've been in all these situations before, and that's why we never say that this is going to be the best ever. We hope it is going to be the best ever, and that playbook is constantly ever evolving.
That's right. So good stuff. So very quickly before we move on, because we've kind of covered most of Saturday, let's just really quickly talk about spotters. As you know, we're not allowed to have spectators, which means you can't have your own spotter. So basically, the next person up will be your spotter. If you're new to this stuff, spotter's job is really important. Please take it seriously, all right? We're running a transponder system. Most of the times it works well, but like everything else electronics, it can hiccup. So you want to be there to make sure that your pilot that's you're responsible for can safely run his quad, and also if the timer doesn't go off, that you actually track the number of times he's been around that track. Is there anything else you want to add to the spotter's responsibilities?
Yeah, that's a big thing, and so something, and I don't know if it was something that I came out with, but XTC2 again, we use that as an example, and I've done, this will probably be my 15th FPV race that has had 30 or greater entries. But I make constant references to like XTC2 and F3 Expo. Those were big monumental events. Even in the World Drone Pre, they're referring to those events. They're huge in our industry. But there's things that we did at those events that we carry forward. So, a penalty for a gate. Normally, like, we don't do seconds because it takes us time. Look at when the World Drone Pre ended. They didn't know who won. And, it took them some time to figure it out, and they went back to GoPro footage or whatever they did. So at XDC2, if you remember, that was an extremely technical course.
Very.
And it was very easy to miss gates. So because we had another situation like we have here, we had a huge abundance of pilots and we had setup delays, all kinds of problems. So our clock just kept getting smaller and smaller. So we didn't want to mess around with time penalties and all that. So I basically said, and I don't know if I was the first one to say this as a race director, but every gate is mandatory. If you miss the gate, you double back or you're losing that lap. And if you lose that lap, you just lost the round in essence, right?
Right, definitely.
Spotters are going to be there to make sure that you hit the gate and you double back. We have, we record everything in duplicate. I have a DVR box that does the strobe effect.
Mm-hmm.
I use that as my go-to. And then we also have a computer DVR backwards. So we can go back on video. If we do have to go back for a video challenge, I can't remember what we put in the rules, but there is a fee to do that. You're basically going to have to pay, to protest. If your protest goes your way, you get your money back. If not, we're keeping it and buying a couple cases of beer after the event. But, the spotter's there to, make sure that you hit all the gates and double back. But, the other thing, too, is, even if you listen to my race commentary, I'm usually falling first or second. And if two guys are close together, I'm watching those, but I'm staring at all 8 screens at the same time. And if all of a sudden I see a missed gate, I'll pause and make sure that people double back. And if you don't double back, I mean, it's game over, right? So you got to make sure you do that. Your spotter's going to watch that. But the other thing, like you said, the transponders, they mess up. And if you followed, again, the World Drone Prix, and Nelson, Cruel FPV, he was team captain for the Gravity Goons in Miami. And they got totally screwed in qualifying because they set up the transponder system wrong. And there was a two-level track. And when you hit the top track, a lot of the pilots would trip and get a fake lap. So they had to do 5 laps. But when you had that fake lap, it would show you 6. And so the clock was never right, the clock. So, it was 50-50. Now, under that pressure position, I would have done the exact same thing. I would have looked at the clock. I'm like, those are the results you're going off, guys. You can't protest it. That's what it said. But no one on that team, and there was a pilot and 4 other guys, counted the pilot's laps. And as a race director, because we're dealing with infrared timing, which I totally despise, but this is what we're stuck with FPV racing. As a spotter, as a pilot, count your laps because, it saves us. We watch it. We know the pilots. We can tell. I can tell from the stats. Like, I can easily recreate. Like, if we're doing, Thunder Drone and there's they're going out there and they're doing 100 laps. And all of a sudden I'm seeing some 30s and every other lap is an 18. And they're like, we did X amount of laps. I can look at it and it just makes sense, But, count those laps because it's a backup because you never know if if you yaw at the gate and all of a sudden you're not pointing at the thing anymore, and we don't catch it. I mean, we're not watching every screen and every crossing, especially when we're running 8 at a time. That thing will spit out and it'll say you only did 4 laps. You'll be like, whoa, I did 5. And the spotter will go, yeah, he did 5. And then, we can either DVR review it or, look at your time, say, yep, that makes sense. You did 5 and we can correct it on the spot. And then that's efficiency. If we, so the onus is on everyone to, just do your thing. I had someone, I said in my race call, I was talking about 4th and 5th. And the guy in second, he thought the guy in first went down in front of him, and so those guys were automatically advancing or something. And I wasn't even watching first and second; I was watching 3rd and 4th. And so I said, "I'm going to call it." Between this, there's no way this guy's going to catch him. But the guy in second heard me say, "I'm going to call it," and so he pulled over and landed. And all of a sudden, 3rd and 4th went by him. So he got 3rd in the heat and didn't advance. And
how?
And I said, what happened? He's like, you said you're going to call it. I said, no. The first thing I always say in a pilot meeting when we do a full one, I'm like, you keep going until I say that you're done or you're done, the onus is on you just as much as it is on us, So definitely that lap count. And, we saw it, world's largest race for prize money.
Definitely.
screw a bunch of people. So yeah, do your lap count. Make sure you do the gates. Make sure the guy you're watching do the gates. And it's a big, really important job, really important role.
Yeah. Good news is that even though we're in an enclosed area, there's plenty of room to double back on there. Trust me, we've been down there a million times. There's plenty of room to double back if you miss a hoop, and we're really not providing a whole bunch of hoops because we don't want this to be too technical of a course, anyways. And also, just as a tip, like if you ever watch an FPV race, being a spotter, that's actually like almost getting another turn on the track because you're watching somebody else race. You can always derive something else from it. If you're competitive, learn something from it.
It's a lot of fun. So a race that I haven't made mention of tonight, the Canadian Drone Nationals. So previous to that, our first race, we used RC car timing system transponders, and we had 99.99% lap reading. And the only one lap I missed, a guy like hovered over the gate, dropped through the gate, and went through. And I watched him do it, and I saw the missed lap and fixed it instantly. It worked, but then that was February 2015. Now we go to August 2015, 7 months later, and the craft are smaller, the VTX are stronger, and they have a new DC switch in it, which now creates a ball of RF noise. So I come in with a different set of transponders, which should have been better, but they didn't work because they're RFID, radio frequency, and there's so much radio frequency burning off this quad that the transponder couldn't communicate with the loop. So,
okay, yeah.
And this was early in our game. I always talk about the schedule and the timing, and I have everything from, it's not just the racing. I mean, from setup to pilot meeting, like everything is per schedule. And at the Canadian Drone Nationals, this was a learning lesson where I said, the course must be built the night before, and it never happened. And then next thing you know, we're 3 hours late into practice day, still building the course. And that is another term that I always refer to as the dominoes. And at every event, there's always something that'll set those dominoes off. So you have to do everything in your power, to make sure that your schedule is on time, everything's tested, or as soon as one of those things, everything goes off. So because the course was late, we never got to test the timing system with these new transponders that I tested at home without quads. They worked great. And, put them on quads, put them in that race, put them on 1 or 2 quads. Actually, they passed the test. Put them on 8 quads flying through that line, or 8 quads in the air. Critical timing malfunction. But we didn't catch it until dusk on practice day, because by the time we got practice done, by the time we got the course built, it's like lunchtime, and we're just getting people out there, And I'm just running a manual clock. Okay, your 3 minutes is up. Next group, right? So we caught it too late. So now we're into the actual race day, and we have no timing system, and critical timing malfunction.
Ouch.
Now, fortunately, I'm very familiar with the software from RC, from running RC car racing. It's RC Scoring Pro, and it has a feature to do hand timing. So, and that's actually on the fly. If someone misses a lap or something, I can just on my keyboard click, click, click. For efficiency, if someone's transponder isn't checking in at the gridding position, I'll say, it's fine, we'll hand score you. And we hand score on the fly. It's really super quick. So I came up with a whole system of USB extensions and keyboards. And so we hand timed the entire Canadian Drone Nationals. Now,
wow.
We got on this story because he said spotting is fun. So what we did is we had the pilot sitting in a chair facing the track and the ground station. We had the spotter on a chair behind him, goggled up, and in front of him was a table with keyboards on it. And so we marked, if he's sitting on seat 5, he has to hit the 5 on the keyboard. Very simple. And this thing, it worked amazing. I wish I could quote Tony Cake from Immersion RC, who was there, but he's absolutely brilliant. And it saved the day that we didn't, we shouldn't have been in this route, but we made it happen again. One of the superhero moves behind the scenes that we do. But there's one guy. This is how we got on the story. So there's one guy. He was following along. He's very sharp, and he was one of my first test pilots in November, testing our first ever venue. So I've known this guy a little bit, and he's like an ambassador, like getting guys out and started and helping them build quads and stuff. and cheering everyone on, and he was doing okay in racing. Well, it was his turn to spot. And so we sit down and, all right, spotters ready, goggles down and all this, hands on the keyboards. And so the guy put his hand on the keyboard. And so you know how FPV, we always make the joke of Stevie Wonder. This guy, and he's sitting right in front of me, BTW, because I'm behind this, like the orchestrator of this mad scientist. I don't know.
He's the overseer, yeah.
Yeah, I'm the guy, I'm the conductor of this mess. So he is there, Stevie wondering. I mean, his head is all the way back. His jaw is down on his chest. He's smiling, and he's like this, like he is like going on his first FPV ride of his life. And so we're going through this thing, and we're going through the race, and all of a sudden I'm like, this guy's having the time of his life, and I'm watching him. I'm trying to watch a little bit of the race line of sight. I'm watching the scoring screen, and then all of a sudden the race is about to end, and I'm like, the guy that he's spotting for is super fast, but he hasn't done a lap. How is that possible?
Because he's too busy enjoying himself.
He never hit the button in front of him.
Oh, that sucks. It's like, well, we're pretty sure you came in first, but we really don't know.
We don't know. And that was, that was technically our second race that we'd run, and that was under, a different group. We didn't even have a group at that time. And so we didn't have a DVR. Even at that time, I didn't have the 8-up display. Now I have an 8-up display, so I watch every FPV feed before, during, and after a race. So it's really helped us with efficiency. So, the biggest thing, we go to take off, and all of a sudden someone's like, I got no video. And I look, I'm like, flick the switch on your goggles, or I got no video, or they'll take off. And especially if it's someone who does that all the time, and it's usually like they didn't arm their quad in time, and they're late off the start, or they got hit from behind, and they're like, I had no video, or this guy jumped on my video. So those people, I already know them. I'm staring at their screen, I'm like, didn't flicker, dude, didn't flicker. Pay me the $50, I'll show you the replay. Like, might as well buy it on iTunes later, save your money. So having that screen there has been an asset, and having that DVR there is an asset. But yeah, that was probably the best thing I'd ever seen in an FPV race, though, is that guy just loving the ride, loving the ride.
Hey, we can charge for that.
Like $50.
Exactly. Charge for that. All right. So we covered most of everything for Saturday. So going into Sunday, you qualified, which means you did your prerequisite number of laps. So going into Sunday, if you've qualified, what do pilots expect? Same thing?
So I'm not going to. I'm going to try and do a celebrity cameo appearance to Drone House 3.0 with Big Whoop, and then I'll go to my hotel room because I won't have my wife with me, and I'll sit there and I'll do another whole report, and I'll set up our Group A and Group B. But basically, the way that the seeds are going to go is based on qualifying. So your top qualifier is in Group B. He'll be in the second group. He'll be on the pole. And maybe there's a couple of females registered, so they will be on the pole. And they're in, that last race of that class. And then if we're running all 8 channels, which we hope to do, 1st through 7th, they're in that championship race. They're in the A main. And everyone who's 8th through 43rd in that class, they all have an opportunity to make it to the top 8. It's almost like a last chance to qualify. But if you qualify, let's say 43rd, 42nd, 41st, 40th, 39th, 38th, you're in like the lowest main. You're in like the F main. So you still get a championship race. And in the lower races, we may have 7, we may have 8. Whatever is in that lower number, they race. The winner of that race advances to the next higher main. So if they were in the F main and they win, they're then 2 races later in the E main for that class. If they win that one, then they go to the D main. If they win that one, you go to the C main. If they win that one, you go to the B, and then I don't think I skipped a letter there. And if they win that one, they go into the A. Now, it sounds impossible, but if you're at F3 Expo, sure, we're using 3 seats at a time, but Ockbots went out in qualifying, wrecked, and then gave up, and then changed his mind and said, put me in. I'm like, well, you do have a qualification stat as an attempt, so you are last place. Good luck. And he went from the F into the A and finished second in his class. So it can happen. It's very exciting. From and it's twofold. The way that I look at it is everyone is paid the same race fee, whether they are brain drained, Zoomis, no longer a noob. They paid the same race fee. If it's someone who just, Joe or Scully LOS, which is my FPV name, Scully LOS paid the same race fee. And yeah, he didn't do a lap, but he gets one championship race and an opportunity to make it into that top 8. And so, they give that opportunity. They can work their way up. If not, they get one more championship race, so they'll know how they finish overall. And there's good separation there because we have 3 classes. So we'll have like an F main and 4-inch, 5-inch, 6-inch, and then we'll go to the E main, work our way up. And I think it's really exciting that way. I like it better than elimination. Elimination takes more time and puts a lot of pressure on someone. If we've run those 2 qualifying rounds and that person has earned the pole, they're on the pole. And, everyone else still has that opportunity. It's forgiving in nature. And for us, from a racer perspective, more flight time, you still have an opportunity to get into that final. So it's forgiving in nature. But then for us in a storyline following this thing, you have a story like an Ockbots working his way from the bottom to the top. When you get up into, those C and the D mains, these are your middle of the class racers. Now they're seeded, all the middle of the class racers. Who's the best of the middle class? You may see some people that just had a terrible weekend in there. So, it builds a storyline. And really at every event, because I get bored. I mean, look at my times. I'm 15 hours on Saturday and 9 hours on Sunday of racing. I just look for those storylines and I love it, to see a guy go from bottom to the top or, just even the battle for the 3 in the middle main. I mean, that's exciting. And so Sunday, everyone who's racing together is of the same caliber up to that point. And so it feeds for great racing across the day.
Yep. Definitely don't give up. Climb that ladder.
Yeah.
All right.
It's crazy. I mean, it's an RC race thing, and so I've seen like with FPV racing and aerial GP was the first ones to really have a rule book, and even in Canada we're quote unquote a chapter for aerial GP, but I've always talked to them like their form of racing is much like Red Bull, and it's that bracket, the 16 round, the 18 round, and you can lose your top qualifier early in the day if he just has one bad move, and you spent the first day qualifying, so that guy's earned that position in that final. So I'm not a fan of that elimination. I just like this, and this is what they do at RC racing, like IFMAR Worlds and Roar Nationals, and at your local track, it's the A main, B main, C main, and it makes it exciting for everyone. So there are guys like in RC racing, they've been at it for like 25 years. They go to the same track. They race against the same guys. They started when they're kids. Now they're retiring, still racing RC cars. There actually are guys like that with the big stick-out silver antennas on their controllers. And, they're just so excited. I'm like, I'm a B main guy. I won the B main this time. You know what? I was second in the B this time, I think it affords good racing, and it's a proven format.
Cool. All right, so that kind of covers individuals. If you have any questions, just drop it in Facebook in the comments, and we'll roll around to it. Either me, Scully, or Frank will eventually see it. But just realize we're all busy people. So,
and that was the one thing we skipped over there. You said about the hoops. We don't have too many hoops, but the other thing too is Frank looked at those hoops and he saw Bulbafit, fly through them, and Bulbafit hit like 9 out of 10. I mean, he definitely rocked those hoops. So Frank says, you know what? We don't want them to be jaws of death. We want this course to be big and sweepy. So a beginner pilot and a pro pilot will all be able to finish a lap. So he's building them bigger. So, I mean, they're not really hoops. They're like silo openings.
Yeah, so, it's rather hilarious, actually, because it literally takes 3 people to just drag him around now. It's like, but hey, you know what? I like big hoops too, because like one thing that you really hate is crashing out on the first hoop, and it's like now I'm just gonna get to sit here.
Yeah.
All right. Like I said, that covers everything that I have for the individuals. If you're not in the team race, you can cut out, or you can listen to us rant some more. maybe hear an interesting story from Scully, because he always has interesting stories. Hey, I find this stuff interesting. There's always history involved when you're this early in the sport. The 100-lap race. First one of that was the Thunder Drone. The only reason why we're not calling it the Thunder Drone is because I don't know who owns the IP and I don't want to get sued. So we're calling it the Rotor X Relay. But feel free. Yeah. So like, I personally like the name Thunder Drone, but like, yeah, I think somebody else owns that. For same thing, restrictions. It's a max of 6-inch. So if you want to fly as a team and you want to only fly 5-inch, or you only have 5-inch, be more than happy to. Most of the time, a 5-inch and a 6-inch prop can go about the same speed. So you're really not losing much there. If you go down to 4-inch, you do sacrifice some speed. 4S batteries and a max of 5 members on a team. So actually, we're pretty lucky. Scully pulled some strings, and everybody has a 5-man team, so everybody should be competing on the same playing field. So that's pretty cool. I'm gonna let Scully go through how he wants to run practices, qualifying, and the championship, and then we're gonna talk about pitting, because there's actually pitting involved when you're trying to go 100 laps, and then we'll wrap up. Cool?
Yeah.
All right. How do you like?
So,
go ahead.
So in the Rotor X Relay, it's a race to 100 laps, and same as what we talked about in individual racing, we want to make sure that when we get into that finale, that it is the most dialed in that it can be. So people have strategies, people practice, but when it comes into the pressure of that race situation, things happen. And Thunder Drone at F3 Expo, we saw people trying stuff even in the mains and throw that, Horizon Hobby with their bed sheets from the hotel, from the Omni Hotel out there. I thought, wow, that's the most expensive sheet to be thrown at a $450 quad. Why not? It had the wrong stitch count, apparently. They couldn't get it to work. Basically, we're going to do 2 practice rounds, and then the same as in individual racing, we're going to do 2 qualifying rounds. We are planning to do the finale with all 8 teams, but we're going to go in groups of 4, because as we know, there's traffic. So we'll split them in heats of 4 for practice and qualifying, so that hopefully there will be no contact, people will be spaced out. And then once we get into the finale, it'll be, all hands on deck. It'll be the pandemonium that we're looking for. A lot of that pandemonium, of course, controlled chaos this time in the 100 lap team race. So practice, same sort of thing. We'll go out and we'll do. It'll be about half. It'll be about a 50-lap race for practice. That's one of the numbers that we're just kind of playing with right now. It's really going to come down to our average lap time on the individual racing day. We want to do 100 laps, but the reason the practice is like 50 laps or 40 laps is because we want to make sure that every pilot will get out there and do 2 packs, and that's enough pit stops so that people get into the...
Uh-oh. I think Scully dropped off. Oh, sorry.
Through a certain amount of time there, we're going to practice and our qualifiers. So then our qualifiers maybe, again, 30 or 50 laps, somewhere in there. And we'll do them in 2 heats. And so we'll do 4 in qualifier 1, 4 in qualifier, another 4 in qualifier 1. Then we'll repeat, and then we're giving them 3 opportunities to go out on the track. 2 of them count in the qualifiers. And then from there, we'll take their best efforts and we'll create our grid. And just like I said, in individual racing, if you've earned that top spot, you're going to get all the benefit of it. So we will space out those teams all along that long straightaway. So first is almost at that first turn. 8th is like in front of the flight line. And so when they go green, we didn't waste that time qualifying, getting everyone dialed in. They've earned that position. So when we go into the race, 100 lap race, and it's on them. The only thing is we require that there are 2 quads and 2 pilots. And other than that, I mean, there really is no rules. Like, you can have 3 quads, 2 pilots. You can have 5 quads, 2 pilots. You can have 5 quads, 5 pilots. Just make sure that you have people to do the catch and release, which is another cruel FPV term. But to swap out, it's enduro race. So one quad lands, gets powered off. The next one gets gets powered up and takes off. And you make sure that you have 1 or 2 guys, whatever you think you need to do to work your pits. We're not like the World Drone Prix and going to give everyone tags and names and roles and so forth. I mean, you know what the rules are, and that's where it comes down to the strategy. And just like at the World Drone Prix and at F3 Expo and the Thunder Drone, and just like in NASCAR and IndyCar, it is going to be won in the pits. You know, what we saw at F3 Expo, the champions of the Thunder Drone were Ready Made RC, and they came up with a really cool strategy, which has actually inspired a lot of technology now in 2016, where what they did is, you know, they're on this, the quads are on the same channel. One would land, and what everyone else was doing, they would land, power it off, power on the next one, and they would have to arm. Of course, that VTX does its burst, and it starts broadcasting. Then they arm their quad and they take off. So you're looking at about 12-second lap times, or pit times rather, that they're down on the mat. But Ready Made RC's strategy was have the quad powered up and armed, even though that's not safe. And so once the first quad landed and was powered off, all they had to do is pop in the VTX and take off. And they were doing 2-second lap times. Like, if you remember, we were watching on the big screens in the Georgia Dome where we had all of the pilots up there, all the quads up there. It was just a flicker of the screen. I thought it was the first quad that landed, and, you know, the next one takes off. So that has inspired technology now that, you know, the Ready Made RC, Cricket version 2.0, and I think a lot of people are coming. I think Fox here has this feature now that your VTX is powered up so you can change channels, but it doesn't broadcast until you hit the RF on button. And so, you know, you're going to see people using that RF on button to their advantage. So as soon as that one lands, you know, they'll power off and hit that RF, and the next one will take off. So it'll be one in the pits, and strategy of landing on the mat is going to be a big thing, and taking off and, you know, maintaining the right race line, using your whole team to an advantage of, you know, we're running 8 in that finale. That means there's 7 other craft moving around. So timing your takeoff, you know, not like we saw at F3 Expo. There was, I think it was actually the Ready Made RC team where the one guy was over top of the quad, powering it up, and as soon as the pilot saw video, he hit the throttle, but his pitmate was like right over top of the quad, and
That's scary,
so he took blades to the face. Obviously not safe, obviously something that we're going to work against, and we'll go over numerous times about safety. But, you know, just taking off when you see video probably isn't the best thing for safety, but also you don't know what's coming in for other lap traffic. So, you know, you'll see a lot of communication of, yeah, take off now, it's good to go, and it's going to be really, really exciting to watch. And just like I talked about in individual racing, you know, having that practice, you know, we're going to be practicing all the maneuvers. So we're going to see some of the holes, we're going to see some of the advantages. Then we'll see it in qualifying. We'll have some stats to really compare. And then when we get into that main, now you got 8 craft in the air and craft on the standby. I mean, it's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be awesome. I can't wait for the Rotor X Relay.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. A few things that I just wanted to point out, and these it's mostly going to be revolving around the pits, because that's the biggest area of concern when it comes to safety, and that's what I worry about, because that's what the venue worries about. So whatever they worry about, I worry about. So that's how it goes. So when the pit area, the landing zone is going to be a 6x8 square, and that's really massive. But like when you're trying to land a quad like that, it's actually not that big. But we are going to require you to land on the pad, and there will be a penalty if you don't land on that pad. So you're going to have to, when you, if you saw the Detroit multi-rotor group, they actually had a net, like a lacrosse net, that they flew into so that they knew they can actually land there. That's a good pit strategy. You should look into stuff like that. Because what will happen is that if you don't land on that pad, we're going to give you a 30-second penalty. There's going to be a volunteer and a judge at that pit. If they don't see your craft land there, they're going to have a little sand hourglass. They're going to take your quad, they're going to flip it over until that sand runs all the way down. You can't do anything. 30 seconds is a long time. You're going to lose a lot of laps. So yeah, really, really think about that. And we're still thinking about how we can make it safe to take off. We actually might designate like a takeoff zone in the pit area in which you have to put it there, and then the pilot can visually see they are in the starting area, and then they can take off. But like some of the stuff we're still working through. That's
Well, I
just
think
how
a
it
lot of
is.
it too is going to be on the team, right? Like when the ready-made team took the quad to the face, and the comical thing out of it, because no one got hurt. The pit guy turned around, and I saw this, like I saw the whole thing play out in front of me. He went and did one of these, arms out in both directions, going, "What the heck, man?" Meanwhile, the pilot is FPV, is oblivious.
Yeah, he's like, I
I
don't
mean,
know anything about it. You can yell at me all you want.
yeah, but I mean,
uh,
it's just like IndyCar when they come in, and tragically, you've seen people get hit in the pits there. I mean, it comes down to that, the team environment and making sure that you are doing this safe, and that's where in that pilot meeting we're going to go over these things to make sure that you get a signal from your pit guy, whether it's him just waving his hand in front of the camera or not, before you hit the gas, hit
hit the
the
gas and
throttles
go.
on it.
Yeah. Also, like I'll pop this in front of the screen in post editing, but in our most current map, you'll see that we'll have 4 pit lanes. So that means 2 teams will be sharing a pit lane. So again, just focusing in on safety again, when you have 2 teams in a single pit lane, you have room, but you don't have that much room. Like in F3 Expo, we had an entire football field. Okay, somebody landed on a football field. It's 99.9% nobody there. This one, there's going to be more people there. You're going to have at least 5 people in a pit, and you're going to have a significantly less area to work with when you come down and land. So we're really looking for precision when you guys come down into your pit areas. So just something to think about. Other than that, though, I don't think I have anything else to talk about. Do you have anything else you want to talk about for the
But
championship
this
Sundays?
this is a whole new venture, but it's not our first time doing this. So we learned a lot the first time out of the gate. Obviously, World Drone Prix had a team component to it. It had a different style of racing instead of catch and release. Obviously, they're doing pit work to one quad, and that takes off again. So we've learned a lot from watching that, and a lot of our pilots. We have so many, 3 of the golden ticket holders, we like to call them, from the World Drone Prix competing
Right.
in the Thunder Drone. So they already have that team spirit, that team mentality, and they've had some of them have had a piece of that podium, a taste of that podium abroad. So
Yep.
we've learned a lot since then. So it will be controlled chaos. It will be safe, but it will be absolutely exciting to watch. And I think
Hey,
you
you
know
know, yeah,
to
it's
get
like here's a suggestion. You should go over there and watch their pits. You have plenty of time to do it.
yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
saying. You learn from your enemies.
Well, I think the biggest thing that we saw at F3 Expo. Now, F3 Expo, we actually had the rules for the Rotor X Relay are formed out of the initial rules for the F3 Expo Thunder Drone. But at Thunder Drone, because we were against the clock again, that we were supposed to start at let's say 10 a.m. But freestyle, they had a fire on the turf and stuff, and then by the time you get all the freestyle pilots with their stuff charging and over for a pilot meeting, now it's quarter after 10, and we weren't going to go green until 10:30. So, we basically did a hybrid pilot safety meeting, and so I just went over the basics, and we kind of formulated it and let it run from there. So we had a lot of safety features that weren't entirely in play. Plus, they were out in the open. Here, the pits are behind pillars. It's much safer. That's been addressed. And, everyone said, the Thunder Drone F3 Expo was a lot of fun, but we had to tighten up safety. And then, so this is the second time that catch and release has been done in this format. It will be a lot safer. And I mean, I think you're going to see a lot of the same stuff. I mean, up until the point, I remember lap number 12 in Atlanta was the coolest FPV race I'd ever seen, because that was when the leading team was coming into pit, and the team that was in second, that was right behind them, stayed out there. And that was just so exhilarating to watch, and to be able to do it again, and to know, like, 3/4 of the pilots that we're going to see out there, like, it is going to be outstanding. And I mean, Ready Made RC, they are the champions, the reigning champs of this, and they have a team
Ah,
combined.
yes, they got to
Team
defend their
Motor, right?
championship.
Yeah. So I think on that ready-made team, there's only one person who is on the championship team. but it still counts.
It still counts. Hey, it only takes one person. Just one quick thing. We already said this. It's about 1,400 feet per lap. So a lot of team racing isn't about going the fastest. If you got a guy that's very efficient and can do well, give him a big battery. Let him be out there for twice as long. Pitting takes time, so you really got to think about this stuff. Just suggestions, anyways.
And the team who got third, they are coming back to this event too.
Oh
Team
yeah,
Detroit Rotor.
that's right.
And they, I believe that Vortex, who is the fastest pilot at that time with Detroit Multi-Rotor, so he is a returning pilot. He's got the experience. And then the other pilot, they have a new pilot, Beast Mode, who has been racing with us on my winter series up in Canada. And I think he's faster than Vortex. So the Ready-Made RC, or the Detroit Multi-Rotor team, I think is definitely going to be one to watch. Plus, they have the guy who, he read over those rules. He did the strategy. He, designed their quads, and they were in it to win it. He came up with the soccer net strategy. So I'm sure he's coming down as well. So they were blanked. They still bit podium in Atlanta, but it was theirs to win. They had the strategy, and just where they lost was in the pit stops. They couldn't figure out why the Ready-Made RC team was flicking over. And if it wasn't for those 10 seconds of pit stop, that turns into 10 seconds. That's 3/4 of a lap, and if they're doing 8 or 9 of those, that's that advantage plus sports psychology of now we're 5 laps back and the leaders only have 10 laps to go, and that's when the problems happen. So this time they're going to be ones to watch. Obviously, Ready-Made RC, because they're the reigning champs of this with one returning pilot. They'll be plus their technology inspired by that. That'll be a team to watch, and
there will be many interesting storylines to come out of it. So
yeah.
if you can't make it and you're watching this video, you should totally turn into the live stream, because that will be really cool to watch.
Yeah, we'll be capturing it. Unfortunately, at Atlanta, freestyle was the thing, and so the only video footage that we have of the Thunder Drone is stuff that I stitched together from Instagram videos.
Are you serious? Yeah.
Hey. One person way up top filmed it and put it on YouTube, and so I was able to splice Instagram footage in sync, so it was like multiple camera angles. It's okay. It's not a Spielberg production, but that was how we captured it, and so that when we talk to people, this was Thunder Drone. This was revolutionary.
Hey, if you want the entirety of the pit area, I have that. So if you ever want that,
yeah,
I have 45 minutes of that. I stuck one camera, and that's all I recorded. I recorded 45 minutes of the pit.
And CBS Sports, not CBS, 60 Minutes Sports was there, and they've still yet to release that feature. And that's where their camera guy was. I mean, the action is in the pits. It's one in the pits. And, yes, it's exciting. Now, this course, compared to what we did in Atlanta was just big oval around the Georgia Dome. Here, we're using the exact same course we use in individual racing. So it's got the turns around the pillars, it's got the sweepers, it's got the hoops, it's got the up gate, the low gate, the middle gate, the hairpin. So, it's a more intense course to watch, but even if we had, a guy like in Wipeout throwing water balloons at quads, it would still be more interesting to watch the pits, because that is where those crazy landings are going to happen and the fast takeoffs are going to go, and, you're going to see people just up in the moment. And we'll definitely, this time we'll at least have it captured, and it'll be bigger and better than ever for sure.
Cool. All right. So those were the two different types of races that we're going to be covering. We're going to have another video out that's going to cover the Detroit Multi-Rotor HD Challenge that is basically brought to you. It was possible thanks to Detroit Multi-Rotor Company working with us to make a really, really cool and interesting challenge. So definitely stay tuned for that. Anything else to say, Scully?
No. Be blessed and be a blessing.
Alrighty. Signing off.